I became a molecule of love in the universe. I am really excited to share about this wildly, massively transformative experience that I had in my life. This was a few months ago, and I have not been the same person since. I see a lot all over YouTube and other places where people talk about, near-death experiences, and then they experience this oneness with God and have these massive epiphanies, and then they come back to this world and, all has changed, this, that, and the other. Mine was not a near-death experience. It was from a plant medicine experience. Plant medicine has been probably the most pivotal thing that I've ever done in my entire life. At this point in time, I've done a good amount of plant medicine, and it has all been in sacred ceremonies with the intention of healing the shadow and expansion of the consciousness and deeper connection with God. I'm not somebody who messes around with these beautiful medicines and does them loosely or lightly or without intention. It is always in a sacred way. That is how I view them. That is my intention with them. And it is for deep healing, growth, and expansion. That is the way that I view it. And anyone who I've ever supported in plant medicine, they understand that this is sacred. It is a powerful tool on the spiritual journey. And no, it is 100% is not necessary to do plant medicine. I've had many conversations with God about this. It is not necessary to do plant medicine to heal. It is not necessary to do plant medicine to expand your consciousness. However, it is a tool, and it can accelerate the process. It can allow you to heal deeper parts of your shadow in a shorter amount of time without you having to sit there and process and figure out and go through. It really prompts and brings things to the forefront for you to work through. It can also enhance your expansion and your growth in your consciousness in a faster way as well, because as you go into the dark, it allows you to raise on the light, right? So they're connected in between. So it does help support in those things, but is it necessary? No, absolutely not. I would never tell anybody that was 100% necessary for your spiritual journey. For me, it was a choice. I was never somebody who ever in my wildest dreams thought that I would do plant medicine, ever. I never thought that I would do any of these things. I never even smoked cigarettes, right? I never even smoked weed. I've never done any kind of drugs or things like that. I was never, ever that kind of person. But when I slowly felt an urge towards it, and that's kind of how it happens. For me, the basis of what I have used has been psilocybin mushrooms. And when you feel an inkling to these type of medicines, it's like a calling. It's almost like you're summoned, and then you just answer the calling. I wasn't just like in a position, I was like, oh, I guess I'll do this thing. It was like, no, this had been like within me, like marinating and nurturing within me for a while. This was years and years and years ago whenever I did it for the first time. But this experience was so much more profound than just a regular ceremonial plant medicine experience. And it is because I also did this medicine in combination with the Temazcal here in Mexico, where I live. I've been going to the Temazcal for over 2 years. A Temazcal is a Mexican sweat lodge, and it is where you go within for about an hour and a half or so, and there is chanting and there's music, and it's hot abuela stones where it is working, and you're in this dome-shaped clay hut, ultimately, and the way that they view it is on the earth side is this clay hut, and then they imagine as this is then the opening to the spiritual world, and underneath is where ancestors and they are spirits who are supporting in the healing process. And so we are up here on the top, they're down there beneath, and there's this massive support. And as I've said in previous videos, the Temazcal has been one of the most powerful and transformative things for my healing and spiritual journey. And the Temazcal isn't something that is in combination with doing plant medicine. The Temazcal on its own is extremely powerful healing tool. I hosted a retreat here in Mexico where I live. I supported them in plant medicine journeys on that retreat and many other modalities. And we also did the Temazcal, and every single woman said that the most powerful thing that they experienced at that retreat was the Temazcal. outside of even doing plant medicine, right? They said the Temescal. And truly, I'm telling you, these are so powerful to be doing because they are mentally, emotionally, and physically rejuvenating the body. It's such a powerful experience to have. On this special sacred occasion where I was able to do the plant medicine with the Temescal combined, this is where I basically was transplanted through a portal that has absolutely rocked my life in the best way possible. It transformed every piece of who I am as a person, and I've never been the same since. I'm so grateful because Temescals in general are an indigenous sacred ritual that is done here in Mexico and I believe in South America, and it's something that is sacred. And the men, these divine embodied masculine spiritual men, are so powerful. The men who run the Temescal, they call themselves the keepers of the tradition, the men who run the Temescal that I go to. And they have so much knowledge and wisdom, and they truly are keeping alive the ancient indigenous sacred traditions and living from that space and the embodiment of it. They are so divine. And the reason why I was able to join in on this sacred experience was because I had been going to the Temescal for about 2 years, and these men are like my brothers. I don't want to say they're like my brothers. I have built such a deep spiritual connection with these men. They are my brothers. We, on a soul level, are family, and they are some of the most important people in my life, and they have taught me so much on my spiritual journey, so much that I see in our world around spirituality and the spiritual journey and the healing journey is so much conceptual in the mind. You know, read this book and think this thought and do this thing and marinate in mind. But you have to understand that there is so much power in being around people who are walking the walk and being in the energy of their wisdom and learning from them, and especially from people who are deeply different than you. These are Mexican men who are so powerful and embodied and carrying on ancient sacred traditions and powerful indigenous Mayan traditions and Toltec traditions and Native American traditions, things that are so much more than me. And again, the honor that I felt being one of a few white people who were able to take part in such a sacred, not only doing the Temescal with these people, being white and being able to take part in this kind of tradition is an honor. It really is, because they don't have any reason. White people have come through and colonized and taken away so much from these people. Why would they think, why should I be let into this, right? But again, it's the truth and the growth and the embodiment of where we're going in our world, in that we are all one. And although all these things have happened in our ancient past of what has happened, we all must come together to grow and expand. And as long as the intention is pure of all of us coming through and helping each other heal and grow and expand and become one and be in love, in the energy of love. And I was invited as part of a very select group of people to experience this. And I personally feel that what I experienced in being able to do plant medicine with the sacred ceremony of the Temescal is something that maybe 0.01% of the world will ever experience. This is something that I believe goes back so much farther than I can even comprehend in my mind. I believe that this is what was going on in the pyramids, and what has been going on with Temescal probably for eons of time, because it truly is like a portal of transformation that happens because you become just your soul. It's like the physical body is not here. The physical body, there's no separation. There is just full on pure oneness when this happens. So on this plant medicine journey, this massive sacred experience that I embarked on, this 3D reality absolutely melted away completely. And I'll explain a little bit more about that later. my physical body totally melted away. I was only pure consciousness. I literally was a molecule of love floating around in the universe. I was one tiny little molecule and totally overcome, like in the feeling sensations of what would have been my body. It was absolutely just pure bliss. It was pure ecstasy. And this is what I would describe oneness feeling like. I have experienced oneness, the feeling of oneness, before a few times. And those times were also in connection with plant medicine. And after I had experienced oneness on those plant medicine journeys in the past, then for a few weeks after the fact, when I would be in meditation, I was very easy able to tap into that oneness feeling. And honestly, the best way that I can describe what oneness feels like, it feels like a full body orgasm. It feels like your entire body, every cell in your body is having an orgasm, and it can last for a while, like full body bliss and ecstasy vibrating throughout your body. It can last for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes. It can last for a very long time, depending upon how much you continue to surrender into it. There's been other times where I had experienced it and it was almost too much bliss. It would be my preference to not even say that, because how could it be too much? But when we are operating in a world that is in so much pain, in so much suffering, that when your body hasn't been used to operating in a state of pleasure, in a state of joy, in a state of true peace and love and bliss and ecstasy, it's so foreign. It feels like this is too much. But it's actually how we're supposed to be operating in this massive state of bliss at all times. In the past, when I experienced oneness, I still felt like I was in my body. It's like I could tell that I was still in my physical body. This experience within the Temazcal and the plant medicine, I didn't have a physical body. My physical body had completely melted away, and I was purely just consciousness. I was purely just love, a bubble of love, a bubble of God. And the download that I kept getting while I was this beautiful bubble just floating in the universe, it was pure beauty everywhere, was God is not in a book, this is God. God is not in a book, this is God. Like, you don't learn about God in a book. You learn about God through being God. And it was so just like, yes, absolutely, like this is all just God. And what I learned through all of it too was, like, in everything that you're looking around at, every single thing on this planet is God. Like, every cell within us is, because God is infinite intelligence. God is infinite intelligence. It is divine spirit. It's moving in everything at all times, right? It's omnipresent, it's omnipotent, it's complete everything. It's everywhere at all times. It's in everything at all times. Like, it is everything. And all I could see was everything as God. And I believe, oh my gosh, I could cry. Like, I just got full body chills, right? Clairsentient happening. The beauty in seeing this world in that way is so powerful, because we've all experienced this world in such a brutal way. Like, I feel like all of the awfulness of this world is constantly thrown in our face. And I believe that many people on the spiritual journey cannot wait for this life to be over, because they're just like, this is so awful. There's so much pain and hardship and suffering. And it's like, why is all this, right? And then on the flip, for me to experience this world and the universe and every atom and molecule around me as pure love. And God is love. The frequency of God is love. And to be a molecule of pure love, of pure God, I almost don't even have any words to describe it. It was like a coming home, and also a knowing of like, this is the way it was always supposed to be. And then a part of me is like, how did we stray so far from this? Like, if this is the truth, this is what it really all is that we are just this. How have we strayed so far from what this is? Because like for me, in so much of my life, I haven't shared too much about it on this channel, but years of anxiety and depression and wanting to end my life and hating myself so deeply, and so much pain and trauma that I had experienced in my life, that I had been carrying within my life, so much deep hate for myself and disconnection, so much of my life operating from that state. I never ever could have imagined that the truth is that we've really been meant to be operating from this pure bliss of love. And a part of me felt like that kind of thing, I believe, because I grew up in the Catholic Church. And I believe that I felt like only certain people could maybe feel that level of peace within them. Like if you were a monk somewhere, or someone who had like devoted their life to God, which basically, if you're on the spiritual journey, you unconsciously have devoted your life to God. Like even for myself, a lot of people on the spiritual journey are manifestation, like the spirituality in this world has been so hooked on being creator of our lives and manifesting, which has actually just created more and more separation from people. I'm gonna tell you, if you focus, God told me this also on this journey. This is why I also love plant medicine so freaking much, because there's no ego on plant medicine. Your ego completely dissolves and you are just a pure channel with God, and you can hear, it's so clear. There's no like overthinking or thought, like you're a pure channel with God, and the wisdom and the insight and the guidance is so clear. If you only focused on being the embodiment of love and made your daily focus on operating from a pure space of love, you will have anything that you desire to have in your life. But because our world has been so focused on, I want $1 million, I want a car, I want a soulmate, everything, I want, lack. Feeding this like hungry ego, feeding it with all this consumerism, thinking that all those things are going to actually make you feel love. They're not. They're not going to give you anything. They're not going to bring anything into your life. They bring short-term pleasure, and then you're on to the next thing. Oh, well, I guess that car was fun. Now I need a bigger car. And then a year later, you don't care about your car, right? Or whatever it is. If the focus is, how can I embody love in everything that I do? How can I bring joy and peace and love and happiness into everything that I'm doing? When I'm baking breakfast, how can I embody it deeper? When I'm driving in my car, how can I embody it deeper? When I'm at the grocery store, how many people can I bless, right? Instead of the Oprah thing of you get a car, you get a car, you get a car. It's like, I bless you, I bless you, I bless you, I bless you. How can you actually, if you made your focus where you just gave, if you gave more, and you chose to be the embodiment of love, and you chose to just give and serve and give and serve and give and give and give. And I'm not saying give money, give love. Give love and joy and bless other people. Like actually be the embodiment of the truth. Because that is the truth. I can tell you, I have never been more sure of anything in my entire life after having this experience. Give more to everyone, and you will be given everything. I'm telling you, that's the answer. Like, if you're looking for the answer to life, that's the answer. Like, open to be a vessel for divine love, and you will be carried to your highest expression. As I open to be a vessel for divine love, I'm carried to my highest expression. In your highest expression, you are taken care of in all ways, shape, and forms. Mentally, emotionally, physically, monetarily, financially, whatever. You are fully supported by God as you are a vessel for the divine. It's so much easier than we think it is. The reason why it feels hard is because we live in a world that doesn't operate that way. We live in a world that when that person's angry, they expect you to be angry too. We live in a world that is shoving fear down your throat. We live in a world that doesn't actually support and want you to be this level of embodiment, but that doesn't mean that you're not supposed to be it. But what became very, very clear to me is that the negative, there's a polarity, right? The opposite of God, right? If you want to call it, the devil, Lucifer, whatever it is, Satan, is loud. Look at our world. Look at how loud our world is, okay? Look at what is being screamed at you in our world. Is healthy food being screamed at you? No. Is love being screamed at you? No. Everything that encompasses the purity of the divine, of God, of love, peace, joy, happiness, freedom, healthy relationships, healthy bodies, healthy minds, all of that. Is that screamed at you in this world? Is that on the billboards? Is that in TV? Is that on social media? Like, is that in the music? No, it's not. What is loud? Right? The negative, the polarity, and if you want to put a name to it, the devil, Satan, whatever, like that's loud, and that's what's controlling 95% of our world. If you want to read an extremely powerful book, read the book called Outwitting the Devil Within. It's an extremely powerful book and will help you understand this a lot better. The devil is always going to be loud to get your attention. Our whole world is screaming for you to be in the negative, for you to be, why is alcohol loud? Our whole world, that being happy and partying means consuming alcohol. Why are they called spirits, right? It keeps you in a control. It keeps you not from this higher frequency. God is never going to scream at you to follow it. God is never going to be yelling for your intention. And this is why a very small percentage of the world operates in deep connection with the divine, okay? Because it's never going to scream for your intention. It is always there as an option, but it is up to you to choose that option every single day when the rest of the world is screaming at you to not choose it. This is the difference, because the 95%, the other 95% is operating from the unconscious underneath the control of the negative. The light and God, source, divine over here, the 5% is not going to scream for your attention. It's not going to beg and plead for your attention. The negative is, look at, they're begging for your attention. Watch this show full of gossip and complaining and negativity and anger. Why do you think reality shows that are full of toxicity do so well? Because they keep you feeding off of that. You watch shows feeding off of gossip and negativity, that's the frequency that you're at. The music that is suppressing and keeping us in a negative state that literally implants fear into the body. They've done all this for a reason. That's why they keep everyone in a program. It's called a program for a reason. The divine is not going to scream for your intention, and the divine is not loud. This is why anytime, any course, anything that you'll ever take, somebody trying to teach you and how to connect to your intuition, What is one of the first things that they will say about connecting to your intuition? Silence. Silence your mind. The first time that I started having deeper conversations with God, with my intuition, was when I was super chronically ill with Lyme disease and mold poisoning. This is pre my spiritual awakening, and I started taking these really hot Epsom salt baths at night. And in these Epsom salt baths at night, there was stillness. There was silence. I wasn't consumed with a phone or a TV or whatever it is. I allowed myself to have a moment to be an open vessel for the divine to come through. I didn't know that that's what was happening at the time, but that's what was happening. And I started getting these intuitive nudges and this wisdom coming through. And I started listening to it. And I started following it. And as it was saying, as it would happen, those things did happen. And then it would give me more intuitive nudges, more intuitive. And that's the other thing with the divine, is you're not going to get a roadmap. You're not going to get, oh, hey, here's the perfect plan to build a house. They're going to say, hey, do this step. And when you do that step, you're going to do the next step, because I'm going to give you the next step after you do it. If you complete the step, then you've created forward motion, and I'll give you the next step. And then when you do the next step, now you've created a snowball effect. It's like every intuitive download is one brick. You are standing on a path that has not been, the bricks haven't been laid yet. If you receive the download, you place the brick, you receive the next download for the next brick. If you never place the brick, you never move forward, because you can't step on a path with no bricks. The divine is in stillness. It's in slowness. It's in silence, and it's never going to scream for your attention. So even anyone who's a manifestation coach, whatever it is, and they're screaming, and you can have this and this and this, and you can have it all. But trying to have it all from a place of feeding a wounded ego and not from embodying the pure love that we're supposed to be embodying to serve the world from isn't going to get you anywhere, which is why so many people will manifest or have gotten everything they've ever wanted in life. And why are they still so unbelievably miserable? Because it's not the answer. No manifestation is going to fill an empty hole you feel in yourself when you choose to operate and start living from an authentic place and moving from the space of love. You're operating from how the divine wants to move through you. And it's easier that way because your soul knows that frequency. Your soul doesn't know fear. It's morphed your body, your ego, your being in this world has morphed to tolerate fear because it's what this world is based off of. But it doesn't know fear. It doesn't know pain. It's only shifted to be able to tolerate it, right? This is why we're like an onion. Right here at the core is our pure soul, and all these onion layers we have around us is what we have done. We've done in this world to be able to tolerate living with the levels of pain and suffering that has been forced onto us. That was never the way it was supposed to be. We were always supposed to be this pure, authentic being, this divine light being operating from love. And the faster you understand that and you come back to that, everything in your life will change. So I'm not going to go through the entire experience in the Temescal and with the medicine. We didn't even take that much medicine. I'm not going to tell you how much we took because it doesn't matter. That's the other thing that I've learned with taking plant medicine and going on these beautiful sacred journeys is you could take 1 gram, and I have taken just 1 gram and have a deeply profound experience because it depends upon the setting, your intention, the energy that you're at, what you need to move through if you're ready for an upgrade. I've also had 8 grams and had deeply transformative experiences, right? It doesn't really matter how much you take. There's so many other contributing factors that are more important than the gram dosage that you take. So I'm not even going to share how much we took because it doesn't matter. And it wasn't that much. And it wasn't like this instantaneous moment that I just became this molecule of God, this molecule of love in the ethers. We took the medicine, we did some sacred dancing around the fire because the fire is very important and holds so much sacred, powerful energy. We set intentions. And when we started feeling the medicine, we went into the Temescal, and there wasn't that many, less than 10 people. I would say that there was 10 or less. So there was lots of space in there. And after having done quite a bit of plant medicine at this point in time, and mine has mostly, like I said, been based in psilocybin mushrooms. So in this experience and what I've known and learned through many psilocybin mushroom journeys is that usually initially what first happens is there's some form of ego death that happens regardless of how much medicine you take. There's some kind of ego fight that like almost like what comes through is, why did I do this? What am I doing? What is happening? Like, why would I choose this? Da, 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 da. There's this ego thing that happens first. And then usually in my experience, the first portion, because a mushroom's journey is a journey itself, the first portion of it goes directly into the shadow. And whatever your body is working at that point in time, it needs to be cleared at that point in time. So the first portion of the Temescal was in my shadow, where I was really in the thick of it and purging so much deep pain. And one of the biggest beliefs that I was clearing at that point in time was the belief that I'm not good enough. And what I was experiencing in that Temescal was all of the physical shame and guilt and pain that I had been carrying attached to the belief of I'm not good enough. And it went on for the first door. So the way that a Temescal works is there's 4 doors. Each one is connected with an element: earth, wind, fire, etc. And however long that door goes for, you're working with one of the elements and it's moving through whatever you're moving through. So the first door, and also while we were in the Temescal, a usual Temescal is around 90 minutes. I believe on this sacred plant medicine journey Temescal, we were in there for about 3 hours, 3, maybe 4 hours. And it was at night. And it's also a very powerful time to do plant medicine in the evening like that, because the world is still. And I also will say that in my own experience in previous times doing plant medicine, any time where I've done it over the evening time through the night, these deeply profound experiences, because there isn't as much chatter with what's going on in the world. Like the energetics of it is really important, and it allows a safe, sacred space to be able to go deeper, easier. I'm not saying, I've had plant medicine during the day too, and it's been extremely powerful. I'm not saying that it has to be, but there is something really sacred with doing it at night and allowing the energetics to work in your favor. Yes, that was one of the deepest rooted pains that I was clearing at the time. And I actually felt, I feel like this is relevant to understanding, to me connecting to this molecule of love, because I felt like I was in hell. That's the best way to describe it, because also I'm in this hot Temescal, you're sweating, right? They bring in the stones and they're singing and chanting. I felt like I was physically in hell. And these beliefs that I was holding were being brought up in my shadow. Obviously, all of this is happening internally. No one else is experiencing this. Everyone else is in their own journey. I felt like I was being tortured with all of this pain that I was carrying internally with me. And I got a download while it was happening, and it said, this level of pain that you're feeling in the physical right now is just the physical expression of the pain and the suffering that your soul has been carrying and feeling for the entirety of your life, as you've been operating from this belief that I'm not good enough. And it was pure torture. And the biggest thing that I can say through any healing that happens on this spiritual journey is the only way is through it. And the second that you face something, you allow yourself to move through it, and it clears out of your system. So I was facing this so head on. I was looking so deeply at a part of myself. And I also was hearing like people in my life, I was hearing, like I had heard them in my life at some point in time. People say, Kirby, you're never gonna amount to anything. You're not good enough. Like you're never, whatever, you're never gonna be successful. All these things that I had heard. Like I remember when I was 18 years old, Tom, who's my father, he said to me, you're never gonna be successful. You're never gonna amount to anything. And I just remember being like, thanks. So much of my life, operated from this belief and then only continued to receive that kind of behavior from everyone around me because that was the belief that I was holding internally. But I was experiencing all of the negative things that people had said in my life. It's like they were all coming forward to me. It was awful. It was so awful. And I remember feeling like this and during that journey being like, this is awful. Why did I do this? This is so awful. This is so torturous. This is the worst decision I've ever made in my life. This is so painful. And then as the door ended, Monique, who's this divine, just absolutely divine embodied, he's one of my favorite people in the entire world. He truly is my brother. He's held such beautiful space for me and healing. And in Temescals, he is so sacred. I love this man. Everyone who experiences this man is like enthralled with him. He is the epitome of embodied masculine energy, and he is so powerful. And he's just divine and the nicest and kindest person I've ever met. I love him to death. He said, is there anything anyone needs to share? And I literally screamed out, like, this is awful. This is the worst, da, da, da. Like, they all saw that I was really going through it in this. And I screamed at him. I said, I hate you. And I realized as I was screaming at him that what I was screaming, oh, I will cry now. I was screaming at myself, how much I hated myself. And I had never really realized how much I had hated myself. But operating from the deep-rooted belief that I'm not good enough how could you not hate yourself if you don't believe, truly you don't believe deep down that you're good enough, that you're a good enough person? And it was so painful because I still felt like I was being tortured with all of this, and I realized that I needed to share it with all of that to transmute this energy out of my system. And Monique is so divine. He didn't even flinch with my like massive reaction that I had with him. That's like totally how unreactionary he is. He's so divine. Love that man. They all held such beautiful, safe, sacred space for me. And then I shared how I've never felt good enough, and I never felt good enough when I was a fashion designer in New York City. I never felt good enough in my family. I still didn't feel good enough as a mom. I'm a mom of a 2-year-old daughter, and that I didn't feel good enough as a mom. I didn't feel good enough in my last relationship. Just all of it. And it was awful saying that out loud. And then the second that I said it, it cleared. And my body was like, and now you have just surrendered all of that. It's like all of that pain melted off of me. In my sweat, as I'm in this sweaty Temescal, it melted off of me and melted into the earth, because the Temescal is in the earth, into the abuelitas, which are what they call the stones, which are volcanic stones, actual, like from the core of the earth. It's so sacred and beautiful. And like I explained to you about how the Temescal is underneath and above, the ancestors transmuted the energy out of me. And I felt like $1 million. I felt amazing. And I was like, wow. So this is the other thing, is if you ever do plant medicine and it's awful like that, you will come out of that if you allow yourself to surrender out of it. And then, like I said, I was telling you how everything is connected, right? The high that we experience, the light that we experience is connected to the dark. I believe that because I allowed myself to face something so deep, the way that I view the shadow with all of our pain and the suppressed things that we're carrying, I view it like a trash bin. And so something that has been in your shadow for a very long time, a very deep-rooted belief that you've been carrying, that either life isn't fair, I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy enough, life sucks. Oh my gosh, one of the things that my mom always said growing up, what an awful thing to say, is life sucks and then you die. That's something that my mother always said growing up. Life sucks and then you die, Kirby. What an awful, awful thing to say about life. No wonder I had been suicidal, because my life did suck and I did want to die. And I didn't want to be here on earth anymore for a long time. But so when there's been a belief that's been so toxic and negative that your body has been operating from. I view it as if, imagine this is a trash bin. I view it as if it's at the bottom of this trash bin and it's just been festering for a long time. So it's just like toxic sludge connected to this. Imagine if you have a trash bin and you have a plastic bag and something got stuck underneath the plastic bag and it's just been like festering there. I'm sure all of you have experienced this, where now it's like moldy and maggots and all this gross stuff attached to it. That's what the deepest rooted beliefs and pains that we're holding inside are like within our shadow, within our body, and they're painful. And they're toxic and they're nasty and they feel awful. And if you allow yourself, you have to feel it to heal it. This is why you must work with the body if you're going to be really healing and growing and expanding on your spiritual journey, because it's not just in your mind. You can think great thoughts, but if you haven't moved that kind of sludge out of the body, you're not going to get very far. And that's one of the biggest things that I learned throughout all of this. Like, until I really started moving things out of my body, I didn't have the kind of expansion that they spoke about in all these books and the ease and all that stuff from like gratitude and all of that, because I was carrying so much pain and suffering and trauma in my frequency, in my soul, that wasn't allowing me to, right? That's all of the programs of the ego, right? All of that stuff. So until I started transmuting that out of my system, I didn't experience the kind of growth. So back to, that was through the first door. And then after that, I don't believe it happened in the second door. There was some other things that moved through in the second door. In the third door, so I now had gone through this deep experience where I came through, I went deep into my shadow. And then I came back up. And on the third door is when all of a sudden my entire body melted into the Temescal, and I just became a molecule of love in the universe. And I believe that because I faced such a dark thing within me, it allowed me to actually experience the bliss of what this world actually is. It allowed me to actually go up and have that. And I just, I was just consciousness. There was no physical body. I was just consciousness. I was just a molecule of love. And it was beautiful. It was so beautiful. And it's so funny now, because I used to cry all the time on how much I hated this life and how much I hated being here. And I hated everything. I hated it all. Life was hard. I hated it. I had toxic relations, everything. And I used to cry about how painful it was to be a human here on earth. And now I cry because of how beautiful it is. When you have an experience like this, like, it is the most profound thing you could ever, I don't even believe that human bodies, that we can actually feel the level of love that the divine has, because we wouldn't be able to actually handle it. Like, I was able to feel, in my opinion, probably like 0.1% of what the true bliss and ecstasy and unconditional love, the frequency of what it is, because I'm a fraction of the divine, right? I'm a broken off piece of the divine, and I'm now a living embodiment to allow God to experience itself in the world as me, right? So I wouldn't be able to feel, like, imagine if it's like a huge puzzle, imagine the divine is like a puzzle and we're all puzzle pieces. I wouldn't be able to feel in my tiny little puzzle piece of this whole thing what this entire thing together of love would feel, because it would probably kill me of that level of frequency of love. I don't believe that it's actually possible. However, to be able to experience the level of just pure bliss moving through the body, it was like ecstasy. It was the best thing I had ever experienced in my life. Like, no amount of anxiety, of worry, of fear, there was no pain in that. It just was pure divinity. And I truly believe that that is how we are supposed to be operating as humans here on earth. And I do believe that it is possible for us. And I believe that it is our duty to create heaven on earth. That heaven isn't some fictitious place that we go to. No, we create heaven here. We are either living in heaven here or we are living in hell. Because in this experience in the Temescal, I experienced the hell, the true hell of what it was and what my body had been operating from with that pain. And that's not just the first time that I've experienced things like that, because there's been a lot of trauma that I've had to clear out of my body. This is just now one experience I'm sharing with all of you. But that's living in hell. And we can also live in heaven, but it is a choice. And it's a relationship with the divine, and it's allowing ourselves to embody this pure level and to choose and acknowledge that everything around you is a mirror of you, and everything around you is also God. And we should be presenting and serving and giving and blessing and loving everything. You don't have to like everyone and everything in the world, but you should love it. That's also one of the most profound things that I've learned through all of this. And if I feel like if somebody has done something and it's not so easy for me to send them love, then I just choose to come back to love myself and I remove them from my consciousness. If I can't say to you and feel really good about it, being like, I love you and I bless you, I will just reiterate back to myself, God's love fills my soul. And I keep the focus back on love. I keep the focus back on myself. I just want to share a couple other things that I experienced during this extremely powerful Temescal. This went on for a lot longer than I intended it to. There was a lot of other things that I also experienced during this, the connection with love and children and just so many pieces, connections with our world. I also viewed us at one point in time during the Temescal of humans just as frequency, and that basically we're just a chakra system of energy that's either activated or not activated. This reality completely melted away. At one point in time, I opened my eyes and I looked out the door of the Temescal, because you're inside a dark Temescal and there's just like a door to get out. One of the men who was running the Temescal, he was out there getting more abuelas, more rocks to bring in. I have no idea. The concept of time totally didn't exist during this. But when I looked out the door, we were not in Mexico, where I am, this beautiful jungle. I looked out and it was a desert. And also I could see through him. He was just frequency. He wasn't dense human. I could see through him, and we were in a desert. Like, this reality was not here. And it was just amazing. It was so amazing. Another thing that I experienced, this was such a wild thing. It was the end of the Temescal. We had finished the fourth door. We were all chanting and singing. I finally was in a state of just like pure ecstasy, right? Initially, like when I first started, I was like, this is the worst thing I've ever done. And then at the end of it, I was like, this is the best thing I've ever done. But I only was able to experience that polarity between, because I faced the dark. I was able to experience the light. That's how it works, okay? And I looked over, there was this man, and he was sitting in lotus pose on the ground, and he just looked so, so divine. And I was looking at his physical body, and then I looked behind him and I could see the shadow, because he had the light from the door coming in. I didn't have the light coming to me because I was on this side, but he was sitting right in front of the door on the opposite side. And so he was sitting there in lotus pose, and I looked behind to see his shadow, and his shadow was perfect, except for there was a white triangle of light right here on the chest that was missing. And it was as if there was no physical matter there. Like, I saw his perfect shadow with the exception of a triangle of light that was where, like right here on his chest in the shadow. It was so beautiful. And I remember just being like, wow. I mean, I don't even have an answer for what that means or what that was, but it was so amazing. I mean, it was so absolutely amazing. After we all got out of the Temescal, which literally felt like they call the Temescal a womb. It is a womb. And then the area where the abuelas go, the rocks, they call that the belly button. It's a womb. I fully felt rebirthed. We came out, and luckily there's a beautiful saltwater pool outside of this Temescal, and we all jumped in the Temescal, and I'm telling you, I believe that that's what the divine meant when having a baptism, because I actually felt baptized as I dove into that water, and it just like fully cleansed me, like my physical body. I mean, it was absolutely amazing. We then sat around the fire and we had beautiful conversation. We were still basically all kind of moving through it. But Monique, I told you, this absolute divine man, if any of you ever come down here for other retreats and things that I host, if that's something you're interested in, you can let me know below. I could see geometric fractals surrounding him. Like I could see him in the physical, but then in front of him was fractals, geometric fractals. Specifically, the seed of life was surrounding his whole face, like this, in front of his face. And it was, I'll put a photo up here of it for you to see. It was absolutely beautiful. And I had never seen anything like that. I've done many plant medicine journeys. I had never experienced anything like that in the physical. And since then, I've also experienced seeing things like that more on the regular. And it's been a really beautiful, sacred thing for me to carry from that experience. It's been absolutely divine. And the only other thing that I will say is, since this massive initiation and upgrade that I experienced on this extremely powerful experience, moving that kind of deep-rooted belief out of my system and then embodying and connecting with such a level of pure love and bliss and connection with the divine has given me the opportunity to watch many other parts of my life crumble, because so many things that were connected with that old rooted belief simply no longer align, because I'm no longer connected with that frequency, because that belief is no longer within me. So the only other thing that I can say is, anytime you do any kind of plant medicine or any kind of clearing out of your system on your spiritual journey, you have to be open and willing to have a quantum crumble in order for you to have a quantum leap. Because if the crumble is necessary first, letting go and clearing so many things out of your system that simply no longer align, in order for you to have the leap into the divine, into the greatness that there is. And so much of my life has just been chipping away. Since then, it's been an extremely wild experience, but also so beautifully divine and amazing. And I have never, ever, ever been more connected to God than I have been since I had that experience. And I'm so deeply grateful for it. And it also was made very, very clear to me in that healing experience that it is God. I grew up in the Catholic Church, and I always felt connection to a higher power, to God. But when I had my spiritual awakening and when I broke away from religion, it was not easy for me to connect with the word God, because that was so like indoctrinated into religion for me. So for a while, I worshiped the universe, right? I would say, thank you to the universe and all these things. And then I went through a phase where I called it Sophia, and then source and creator and spirit and all these other things. But also through this experience, it was made very, very clear to me that it is God. It is 100% God. I'm not, wherever you're at in your journey and whatever words feel best for you, that is your journey. And I give you so much love and grace for that. And this might not resonate with you at all. And so if you don't feel called to use the word God, then please don't. Do what feels best for you. But it has been made very clear to me and where I'm at, and that this is the divine source. The other word that just feels so good through it is the word divine, because it is divine. God is divine. God is the divine. Infinite intelligence, spirit in and all around us is God. That was made very, very clear to me. And I've never had a deeper relationship with God than I have from this experience. I've never understood life in this world in a much more profound way than I know it now. And again, a lot of this isn't this conceptual thing. It is a knowing. It is here so deep within me. And I don't believe in God. I know God at this point in time. And when I had my spiritual awakening and I first embarked in spirituality, I would have told you that I believe in the universe. I believe in God. I believe in that. I believe in a higher power. and I wouldn't have been able to share deeper about that. I would have just said that. There is no belief here. I know God. Like there's no other way for me to describe it at this point in time. And it is like the most powerful thing I've ever experienced in my life. And it all comes back to love. And after being I don't know how long I was this molecule, maybe it was an hour, but it felt like lifetimes. Also, when you're on a plant medicine journey, time doesn't exist. You have no idea what time it is. 20 minutes can feel like 4 hours. For however long I was a molecule of love, which means I was just this pure embodiment of God. That essence hasn't left me. I'm not saying that I am perfect. I still move through a lot of 3D things, human things in this world that I'm in now that I'm outside of this experience. However, it is much easier for me to come back to love and come back to God and remember the truth and the purity of what we're supposed to be operating from. And it is my intention to live from that space and operate from that space and spread love and serve the world from that space. And that is why I am here. That is why I understand that we truly are one love. We are one God. We are one consciousness. We are one world, one peace, one joy. We are all part of one. And I'm here to share that and spread that and help everyone come back to that. It isn't there. It's always been here. And that's my true intention with this channel and with everything that I'm doing moving forward, because I'm purely and divinely guided from source for all of this to happen. Thank you all for being here. If you have any questions, drop them below. Maybe I'll do a reply video to a lot of the questions that people might have about this to give you more insight and context into it. I'd love to share about it. I will be moving forward hosting really safe. I believe that we should be doing plant medicine in safe, sacred ways with the right intentions, with the right medicine men, with the right people, all the setting, all of that is very important to have very safe, sacred experiences and healing and spiritual growth journeys. So I probably will be hosting some of those moving forward. If that's something you're also interested in, you can let me know below as well. You can join us inside the One Love community. That's our online space, our Sangha, which in Sanskrit means spiritual community, where we connect multiple times a month. And also I'm in there, like the daily community chat, if that's something that you're interested in. Otherwise, I'm sending you all of my love. I love you. I believe in you. I know you're amazing. And I can't wait to see you in the next video. Thank you so much for spending this time with me.